Welcome to Tea and Bratwurst.
Hallo zu Tee und Bratwurst.
Our very first podcast.
Yes, our first podcast.
We thought, because we film a lot of YouTube videos, but I always feel that you are the same. There's always so much more information to share.
And there are a lot of topics we want to talk about. We can't do that in a YouTube video.
No. So we thought that would be a great way to do.
Yeah.
And Tea and Bratwurst, it was my idea.
Yeah.
But
It's because she loves tea and I love bratwurst.
you love tea as well, but I think it's so fitting.
Yeah.
So which Bratwurst are you today?
I'm the common Rostbratwurst.
Very popular in my area.
Yes.
With mustard.
I think it's a bratwurst you find everywhere in Germany.
But I always feel that it's especially popular in Saarland.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, which tea are you?
Today I'm a Darjeeling because I love Darjeeling.
It's a very light tea.
Yes. Sometimes I have with milk, which is, I think, not really etiquette.
I don't know.
But I always think, do what you like,
Yeah.
you know. For our very first podcast, it might be so interesting to talk about how we ended up in Britain, which sometimes I think it's a coincidence, but then again I think it's not.
No. What I think, as I said, when people ask me, how did you come to the UK? I say there's two stories. It's a short story. I got a job offer, we said yes, and moved to the UK.
Yeah, that would be very straightforward.
That's very straightforward, but I don't think that's the reality.
No.
Or what do you think?
No, I think it goes back such a long time. Where to even start? So, when I was a child,
Yeah.
I didn't speak any English. None. Not
No,
even
no.
at school. I had French. And then my dad got this job offer for Egypt.
Yeah.
And at first it was just for 9 months. And it was, okay, I'm going there for 9 months, return to Germany, that's it. And then it got longer and longer.
Yeah, and you loved it, Bobby.
Well, hang on. And then, so it got longer, and at one point there was like, okay, my mom and I will move to Egypt as well, and I will go to the German school and everything.
Yeah.
And then we had friends from all over the world. And my dad, back then, he also started to learn English. When I moved there, I absolutely loved being there. I remember, when I was in school in Germany, people asked me, I was 14, my schoolmates asked me, how can you move to Egypt? I could never leave where I live.
Yeah.
And I was so excited. I felt, okay, I must be different because I was really excited.
Yes, because a lot of people in your age probably would have said, no, I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to leave my school. I don't want to change.
It's a tricky age, 14, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. Probably, yeah.
And I was so excited. The first few weeks were horrible because I didn't know anyone. But then I got introduced to some older schoolmates, and from then on, I was never home.
Yeah, I know. You told me the stories. And
it was so great.
Yeah, you had a lot of fun there.
So much fun. And then my parents had a lot of friends from the UK, from the States, from the Netherlands. I didn't really speak English, but whenever I heard the British accent, I loved it.
Yeah.
I just loved the sound. And maybe that was a little starting point, but we can continue. You should share something.
Because my view also is our journey started long ago. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, everybody knows, when I was 2 years old, my parents moved to Australia. and I returned when I was 7. But I never forgot that time in Australia. I never really forgot the English language, because I always loved the English language, because it was probably the first language I spoke consciously. Yeah.
This is something that whenever you tell me about it, by the way, I just, you know how much I love the Australian accent.
Yeah.
I really love it. And you said before you came back to Germany
Yeah.
with your family, you didn't really speak German.
No, it was my mother always tells the story that it was very funny in our household.
Yes.
Because she would talk German to us, and we would understand German. It's not a problem. But she would always get an answer in English.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah, because I could not speak any word of German.
And that must have been like when you went to school in Germany, because how you were 7, you said.
So I just turned 7 when we returned. So I went to primary school again, and had to relearn German, had to relearn everything. And for me as a child, that was awful.
Yes.
I hated it. I mean, I hated us leaving Australia, and because I loved it there. And maybe that love always stayed with me. And even as I got older, I always thought, when I was a teen, I thought, okay, at some time I'll just return to Australia. Because that was always a kind of small, kind of dream. Returning back to Australia, to a country I loved as a child.
And when you went to school, it must have been so difficult at first, because you didn't really speak German.
It was completely awful. I hated it, because, I mean, I went to school in Australia, and I was a good student. And then I came back because I couldn't speak any German. So my notes were just bad, and I just hated it. And it was a very, very small village, and so even then, it was like at the beginning I was treated like a foreigner.
Yeah.
And I wasn't treated like a German, because I was bit as like because I spoke at the beginning, I spoke a different language.
Yeah.
So I didn't like it there.
I'm always sad that you were too small. I wish you would still have that Australian accent, but now it's German.
No, it got completely lost.
You were too little, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When I finished school in Egypt, my parents tried to get me into the American school.
Yeah.
At first, but I was rejected because it makes sense. I didn't speak not any, but not that I could. I don't think I could have mastered.
No, not on a level required.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, that didn't work out. And then my mother, she wanted me to go to the British Council 3 times a week to learn English. And back then, I hated her so much for it.
I remember your mother telling me the stories. How she had to drag you.
Yes,
there.
yes. She arranged everything. She got a cab for me to pick me up. And at first I thought, I'm not going there. And it was a tantrum at home.
I can imagine. Stubborn Kirsten.
And then, once I started attending, I loved it so much. I just loved the language. I loved learning it. I could even, so there were different levels, and then I reached the higher levels faster.
Yeah, you jumped classes.
That was the first time that I ever jumped a class.
Yeah, so you were very successful.
And I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And so some years later, when I returned to Germany, because my parents at the end stayed there for 10 years, but I was too old then. I would have been 24. That would not have been possible for me. So I returned to Germany and was trained as a bilingual correspondent.
Yeah.
So
English.
French.
I know, English and French.
Yes, but I was always more drawn to English, to be honest. But I think you can definitely tell a bit of a beginning.
Yes. Yeah, because we both
Yeah.
were drawn to everything British or English.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when you told me who was the most beautiful woman in the world for you when you were
Yeah.
in Australia.
No, when I was a child, yeah,
Yes.
the Queen was, to me, was the most beautiful woman in the world. Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that stayed. Yeah.
Yeah, the king can't be the most beautiful man for you. And yeah, I think when I was at school
Yeah.
in Germany, we met.
Yes.
We met because you were in the army.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we very soon realized that we had a lot of common ground, and that was one of it.
yes, I think because so you lived abroad as a boy.
Yeah.
I lived abroad.
Yeah.
You were in the army. We moved around in Germany
Yeah.
because you studied in
Yes.
Munich. I studied in Düsseldorf.
Yeah, and it wasn't a problem for you. That's the thing.
No, I think we are both very open-minded
Yeah.
when it comes to that. So it seems we definitely found each other.
Yes.
So
And I think we both, in German there's a word which you call bodenständig. I don't know the English translation.
yeah,
But
very settled.
very much settled down to earth.
Yeah,
People,
yeah.
but it also means that you don't leave your area, the village you grew up. So you stay there.
Yes.
And we're both not the persons who are like that.
When I lived in Egypt, and whenever we returned to Germany for the summer holidays, I never felt like that I belonged in there was not a belonging. I didn't fit in the village. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it's strange. I have two sisters, and you know them.
Yes.
They are
it's
completely different.
I think it's like it was home, but it didn't feel like home.
No.
Yeah.
I always felt that I needed to explore.
Yeah.
And you are completely the same.
Yes, I know. When I was 21 and left school, I had to go to the army or to the let's say armed forces because at that time it was mandatory. And I remember saying, "Okay, I have to go there, and after that I won't return home because I want to do things. I want to." Yes, see Germany. I want to maybe even go back to Australia, do things like that. I told my parents, don't count on me that I will come back into our village again. And I never did.
Isn't it funny? You have two brothers,
Yeah.
I have two sisters, and we are the ones that are completely different to our sisters and brothers. Entirely different. And where to continue? So at one point, when I started my very first job in Munich, I thought that can't be it.
No.
I always wanted to aim for more, and I did the A levels to go to university. And do you remember at one point at uni, I had the chance to apply for something abroad?
Yeah. I know.
And I didn't want to do it. You said...
But it was that semester in Cambridge.
At first, so I applied. I actually did apply and then was approved. And you said, you have to do this.
Yes, because I said I knew that if you would not do it, you would always regret it. So I remember when I brought you to Cambridge, and we went into that room you were supposed to stay at. It was, I think we had to clean it for 3 or 4 hours.
I wanted to leave straight away.
And you wanted to leave. And I said to you, at that time, look, stay. And if in 2 weeks' time you call me and say, I hate it, I want to come home, I'll pick you up again. But the minimum is 2 weeks' time. Yeah.
Yes.
And after 2 weeks' time,
Fine.
there was no discussion anymore, I think.
No, it was fine.
I knew that.
I started to love it. You came to visit me several times, and also my mother
Yes.
and one of my sisters.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bit of the starting point, that because I loved uni there.
Yeah.
I loved it so much more compared to the German uni. And sometimes I walked around at night and so and had a look into the flats and saw some colours. Back then there was Laura Ashley. I kept shopping at Laura Ashley. I think it did something with me.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when you returned home for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And because I think you went in September. And the first time I saw you again was Christmas again. And I picked you up at the airport. You came through. I could see a complete changed person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were completely changed in a certain way, in a good way.
When I returned from Cambridge after the semester, we still lived. Well, we of course
we still lived in Düsseldorf.
Near Düsseldorf, yes. Which was completely fine, but I felt even stranger in the village where I grew up. It's just, I could never see myself returning there.
No, it's like both of us saying, yeah, we're never going to return.
Yes, but we ended up there nearby for 13 years.
Yes, because we believed at that time probably that it was right.
Yes.
Yeah, to be close to the parents, to
which
the family.
I loved.
Yeah, which you loved.
I loved being near my parents, but I never felt at home in the area. It was, I don't know how to describe it. Also like two hearts. There was just not a belonging. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we had, I remember we had nice neighbors, everything, but it still was like, it was like questioning, is that where we want to be? Is that how it's going to be for the rest of our life?
The thing is, because we had this lovely house from Sweden, and I remember, you know how I am, like when I set my mind to something, I try to somehow make it happen. And we fell in love with these houses from Sweden.
Yeah, I know.
And you said, we can't probably do it, and I kept looking and researching and everything, and we made it happen.
Yeah.
And I said, we were always like, during these 13 years, we were like, okay, if something was to come along, like a job offer, we might contemplate it, but after 13 years, I said, I'm not able to give up the house.
I know, you were crying.
Yes.
When we left it. That job offer did not come from, Bob. I think also that was in the making, because look, you studied English literature. You spent the time in Cambridge. Yeah? And I mean, I remember when I left the army, I started working in international companies. I mean, one of my first jobs, I had to deal with French, British people. I had to speak a lot of English. Yeah.
Yes.
And even my last posting in the army was connected to a multinational brigade.
Yes.
So I had to deal with, remember that, with British, Dutch units, and it was a lot of it was in English, and I'd say English was required.
Yes, yeah.
So I think we always had this kind of tendency, and people, I think, knew that and realized that, because I always remember saying, even to one of my bosses, if something would come up and we could move to abroad, we would probably do it.
But didn't you feel the same as me? Like after 13 years, because we were older, you were like end 40s. I would never have guessed that something would come along anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think for both of it wasn't something where we would go into the internet and search and look and say...
We tried things before, but then after years, I thought, okay, that's it now. It's fine.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I mean, it was, we had our house, we had family, we loved our house. because it was also very special to us.
But
and-
when that job offer came, I did not expect it anymore whatsoever.
No, but it came, and I think it came because I remember having that chat when I was looking for a job, and one of my former bosses said, "Look, you always said you would love to go to somewhere abroad. Yeah, you would like to spend some time outside of Germany. Here, I know there's a job in the UK, and they're looking for somebody, and they couldn't find a local guy. So that might be something for you."
When that, you of course knew that before me.
Yeah.
And what was your initial thought back then?
Back then, oh, that's great. To me,
Nothing
it was,
else. Well, didn't you have like, the house and everything?
No, I thought, okay, yeah, no. My first reaction was, oh, if that would happen, that would be great, and I would love it. And I mean, at that time also, I think it was because we both knew the area, because we knew when I got told, yeah, it's near Chester, it's near Liverpool, and we knew the area because we spent holidays here.
Well, we never said before when our very first holiday in the UK was in Cornwall.
Yeah.
I think I was just at uni.
Yeah.
At university.
Yeah.
So 27 years old. I was older because I did the A-levels through night school and everything. And I remember how much we loved it.
Yeah.
But I think back then I never thought, because I think many people, when it comes to living abroad, many people think they go to a place on holiday and think, I could live here. I didn't think that, because that's too easy. But
Yeah.
I remember when you said, when you got the job offer and Chester, we at one point had
Yeah.
a holiday in North Wales and visited Chester. How
Yeah.
much we loved it,
Yeah,
do you remember?
Yeah, I know. That's why I said we knew the area, we knew, but Chester, we knew, and we knew that it was nice.
When we talked about this with my parents, I think they were understanding, because they have a bit of the same experience.
Yes, I mean, I think they knew, or they felt that maybe sometimes at some point, if we would get the opportunity, that we would do this.
And I mean, we both talked to my parents because of their experience, and they actually, especially my dad, said, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I must say that I did struggle not only with the house, but because we were older, and I have such a very deep connection with my parents. I mean, unfortunately, I lost my lovely mom a couple of years ago. That was my biggest concern. What if, because we were older,
Yes, but at that time,
Yeah.
social media, let's say the internet was in, and I mean, remember your mom, she taught herself how to use an iPad and to FaceTime you, or to have a video call with you.
I remember so well at one point, she was always a bit apprehensive of
Yeah.
an iPad, and I said to her, just keep trying, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
And this is what she did.
Yeah.
At one point, I remember, I at one point said to her, you could teach like pensioners or retired people
Yeah.
how to
Yes.
do it.
Yeah.
She was so good at it.
Yeah, she knew. She was, and because she wanted to stay in touch with you.
Yes.
So she said, okay, if I have to, if I want to have a chat with her every day, this is what I need to do. I remember when we discussed the topic of a house, we very soon realized that renting it isn't an option, because first of all, when you return, you don't know how the house will look like. Secondly, it needs to be managed. and you
Yeah.
can't manage it from abroad. And we did not want to put that onto your dad's shoulders or somebody else's shoulder.
No, exactly. No. And then we thought, okay, as hard as it was, we just end this chapter.
Yeah.
And we'll find our way.
Yeah,
somehow.
that's what we did.
Yeah.
We sold it and bought something new here.
When we came here, the company was so kind to rent a flat for us in Chester. And that was good. I think it was good that it was basically in the heart of Chester and not somewhere in the
No,
countryside.
at the beginning that was gorgeous because we had a walk around Chester on the city walls every day.
Yes.
And it was, I came in January and it started to get nicer and nicer and nicer. So that was really good.
But I remember because I came half a year later because of the house and everything, what I will never forget is that we came by ferry and it was one day after the referendum.
Yes, I remember we moved out, I think the guys from the company who did the removal came on the day of a Brexit vote. And then the final moving out was the day after Brexit vote, yes.
And I was like,
yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was a good decision. It was a bit of a strange feeling.
It's a thing we'll never forget.
No.
I think it's a very long story. It was a very long story in the making. It's not like you get a job offer and then you move. I think it was for us, all our lives, we wanted to do that. And I think we set, let's say, the path towards it 30 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to tell today. It's not like you get a job offer by coincidence. I think what we did is we worked towards it and kind of from a subconscious point of view, we got there.
Yeah. I remember that I started to read English interior magazines and books.
Yeah.
That was in my early 20s. When I did the A-levels, I started doing that. I felt so drawn to it because I love the quirkiness and like the traditional British style, probably interior style. I had subscriptions and everything. So I think that plays a role in it as well.
Yes.
So I think we're both just curious people.
Yeah.
We definitely have a lot of topics that we can talk about here on this podcast. So we hope you liked our very first episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we see and hear each other again very soon. So tschüss.
Bye.
Tschüss.
Bye.